Hello again and welcome to another episode of Antinatalism. As you can see, I had a haircut, but you're not really here to hear all about those stuffs, are you? You came here to confirm your existential worldview if you were already an antinatalist, or by curiosity to explore the other side of the coin. If you were, for example, a religious or creationist, life worth starting type of person, but your parents are murderers. And this is what this video is all about. If you check murder definition in a dictionary, you would actually find it hard to associate your parents with that term. After all, our parents gave us life, and we are alive, and we are enjoying life. So this whole our parents are killers is actually a bit like counterintuitive. But things are not always as they seem. This is what you learn in skepticism. Humans are biased towards optimism because it makes them stay alive. It makes them want to prosper and share their genes. Their genetics do not care about them actually. Their genetics are only using you to pass to the other generation. DNA doesn't care about your mental or physical well-being. It only cares about passing to the next generation. It only cares about making you survive, to reproduce as much as you can. All of us are descendants from humans who loved life, who wanted to prosper, who wanted to survive, who wanted to pass their genes. So of course, we tend to be optimistic, just like our forefathers. And just by subjecting life to scrutiny and analyzing it logically, you reach the conclusion that life is not worth starting. Not living, but not worth starting, because there is a difference. Life not worth living is actually self-defeating, because he who says it self-defeats his claim, because he needs to stop himself from living to put more strength into his claim. So it's self-defeating because it cannot be the case. But when we say that life is not worth starting, we put emphasis on the whole antinatalist point of view, that life is not worth starting, but is definitely worth living. Why? Because when you are alive already, you have no other choice but to stay alive, because you have this biological urge to stay alive. Okay, let's get back now to the claim. Your parents, such as mine, are actually killers. If you want to understand the nature of this claim, we need actually to came up with some type of analogy. Like for example, if I put somebody in a room or in a place with the knowledge that this person would actually die eventually in this room, and this room would be the main reason for his death, even if this death does not occur instantly, but it would take a bit of time, I would still be responsible for his own death, and I would still be his killer, because I knew that this guy or this person would eventually die because of his presence in that room. I think everybody would agree that this is the case. If you want to blame or accuse somebody for murder, this guy is definitely a murderer. Now, could you think of somebody that you know in your life that's not in prison that matches this description? Somebody like two people, heterosexual people, not the same sex. Could you think of those people? They are, of course, your parents. Now, your parents, of course, when they conceived you, they knew that you would die eventually, but still proceeded bringing you to existence. If this is not murder, I don't know what is. The argument goes as follows. Premise, conclusion. Premise 1. Anyone who intentionally puts a person against his will in a place which is known will be the cause of his death is a murderer. Premise 2. My parents intentionally brought me against my will to a world which is known will be the cause of my death. Conclusion. My parents are murderers. Now somebody might interject and say, as much as you cannot be given life because you do not exist, you cannot also be given death because you do not exist yet. But this misunderstanding actually comes from an ignorance of the basics of asymmetry between he who is alive and he who is yet to live. I would respond to such objection that we cannot be given life, but we can definitely be given death. Hypothetically, me as a father, I cannot give my unborn son life because he doesn't exist. There is nobody to be given life to. There's nobody to receive that life. All right? So that's that. But there is definitely somebody to receive death. If we say that life is to be given, this only means that he who would receive life is actually eternal, is actually alive in some type of metaphysical realm, just waiting to get inside a physical shape or form. But this is not the case, because life is to be formed, the self is to be shaped by physical processes. My son could never be given life because he does not exist, but he could definitely be given death. Why is this the case? Because when life is formed, I have a knowledge that life would form, definitely a knowledge that my son would be alive. I know definitely that my son's life would cease. When I want to have a child, there is nobody to receive life, but there's definitely somebody to receive death. Why is that? Because the self is to be formed, not born. If the self is born, it only means that the self was actually even before existing in our world. When a woman is pregnant, life is actually forming inside of her. And when the child is born, the self gets formed by a mix of genetics and memories, experience and self-awareness. Then the self is formed and we have self-consciousness that we are. But right at this exact moment, we become aware that we will cease to exist eventually, one day. Therefore, my son could never be given life because he is not there to receive it. But he is definitely there to receive death. When the self is formed, he is in existence. He is self-aware. He is already there. So he would be also there to receive death. But he was definitely not there to receive life. I hope you understand the distinction between those two things, because it's crucial towards our understanding to how your parents are actually killers. If putting somebody somewhere against his will with the knowledge that he would die eventually is murder, my parents put me in the world against my will with the knowledge that I will die eventually, my parents are also killers. Please show me the flaw of my argument. Please show me where the mistake is. An argument which is both sound and valid. Right before coming here, before every video, standing or sitting in front of a camera, I usually attack my ideas as much as I could, because I know people would be aggressive in the comments. But I simply urge you to just watch the full video. Well, if you have already reached this far in the video, you have actually given it some type of attention to have a healthy point of view about the topic. Let me even make it worse. Even if your parents had this knowledge that you would be immortal, I think it would be immoral to bring you to existence. Now, of course, me personally, I don't believe in morals. I think humans are only driven by two things: pain and pleasure. All their actions are exactly for those two things. Either some pursuit of some pleasure or some avoidance of pain. But my problem here is the contradiction. If you sit with your parents and told them that do they agree that putting somebody against his will in a place with the knowledge that that person would eventually die, and not just die instantly or immediately, they would suffer before they die, they would say that this is immoral, yet still contradict themselves when they brought you to existence? Why is this the case? Because morality is not something which is actually objective. People bend morality as they wish. I told you, people are only driven by pleasure and pain. Morality is a tool for maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. But once those two things actually stand between us and between our own selfish pleasures, we throw the whole moral system in the trash. Now, I'm not telling you, of course, to hate your parents. I also have parents and I love them. I'm just telling you not to be a killer like your own father and mother. That's all for this episode, and I want to thank everybody who interacts with my videos. Thank you so much, and see you in the next one.